Hey, this is Idea Coach. It's the Coach. He's Rome. Weighing in on the weight classes, episode 9A, UFC 138. I'm previewing this card. This is going to take place out in Europe. This will be the very first non-title 5-round fight done by the UFC for their main event, which is Chris Lieben versus Mark Munoz. Okay, let's get into the picks right now. Featherweight bout. Michihiro Omigawa versus Jason Young. London's own Jason Young is getting a major bump up in competition when he faces Michihiro Omigawa. Young lost his UFC debut at 131 to Dustin Poirier, a featherweight on the roll. Young does hold a number of submission victories in cage rage, but going against a vet like Omigawa would usually lead people to think that this would be a cakewalk for the best fighter with a 12-10-1 record. But the fickleness of the featherweight division guarantees nothing. Omigawa, while winless in the UFC, holds victories over a couple of fighters of notoriety. Nam Phan, the Dream featherweight champion Takaya, Marlon Chandro, and the Ultimate Fighter season 14 contender Micah Miller, just to name a few. Speed kills, and that's nowhere truer than lighter divisions such as featherweight. Young is fast, but this vet is not over the hill yet, so I'm picking Michihiro Omigawa. If not, there's always Dream. Light heavyweight fight. Cyril Diabate versus Anthony Parash. In some of an old school style fight, one discipline versus another, two older fighters, Cyril Diabate and Anthony Parash, will be dueling it out. Parash is employed with the UFC because he replaced Ben Roth at the very last minute to face Mirko Cro Cop in Australia. And an amazing BJJ practitioner, Parash has little trouble submitting guys, but in mixed martial arts, he has a problem getting the fight where he needs to implement those submissions. His opponent, Diabate, is a great striker, and an entertaining one at that. I love watching the Snake's combinations. If Diabate can avoid the clinch, I feel that his takedown defense is well enough to not worry about single or double leg takedowns as long as he's not cocky, and I predict he'll get a second round KO if not sooner. Lightweight bout. Terry Itam versus Edward Fololoto. In a flat-out pandering squash match, Terry Itam, 14-3, will face a fighter that is 2-2 and also 0-2 under Zuffa, that being Edward Fololoto. The UFC has been babying Terry. He holds some impressive wins over other guys like Sam Stout and Brian Cobb, but fighters with not necessarily bad matchups for him or better records than Terry Itam give him trouble. It's fighters who have faced decent competition. That's something Edward is not. I don't like to make award predictions, but just the way that this is set up, either Terry Itam or Thiago Alvarez should get the knockout of the night. 5-round main event fight. Chris Lieben versus Mark Munoz. In a 5-round outing, Chris Lieben will face Mark Munoz in the main event for UFC 138. The last time Chris Lieben fought in Europe, he looked like a lightweight bodybuilder, just shredded with muscles. But that fight saw him lose to Michael Bisping and get caught pissing hot for steroids. Outside of his victory over Akiyama, Lieben's entire UFC career, either by chance or by matchmaking by Joe Silva, has had him avoiding fighters that can put him on his back. Something that Mark Munoz, his opponent, is capable of doing. But even with Mark's success at middleweight, with his only loss at that division being to Okami, Munoz has been unable to unlock the Division I wrestling champ that rests within him. Both of these fighters get winded and they both start slugging it out. They both have chins, especially Lieben, outside of Brian Stand loss, which he was a little sick, and also, of course, Anderson Silva. Mark's hands are sloppy, and he does get caught quite often. But that being said, he is a smart and powerful fighter. If Mark can avoid the slugfest, I believe he can finish this fight via TKO in 4 rounds or less. Okay, guys, so that concludes the preview for 138. The thing is, when I first heard about this being the very first 5-round non-title fight for the main event, I was a little disappointed, but then again, they have to start somewhere. Personally, I would rather have it would be for Shogun and Dan Henderson, a fight which can actually have title implications to them. With Leben and Mark, it's kind of like whoever wins, if they're not completely dominant, where are they in the title contention? Because you still have Chael Sonnen, you still have Vitor Belfort, you still have the winner of Michael Bisping or Mayhem Miller. So, I don't know. I get the feeling now with the sheer amount of events that are taking place, the big fights are going to be less and less and less. Not the big fights, I retract that statement, the big cards. UFC 137 just happened, 138 is this week, the Fox debut is the week after that, and the week after that is 139. And in December is 140, and also the Ultimate Fighter Season 14 is coming up. Whew! It's a lot of fighting going on, so keeping track of everything and what's important, what's not important gets a little more difficult. But either way, I'll still be weighing on the weight classes. I check you guys out at episode 9B that will take place 1 or 2 days after the event. Okay guys, take care.